Dearly beloved, we have gathered here today to get through this thing called Mix CD. My name is Mike, part of the SPDM crew, and I love making Mix CDs. Each week, we give our guests a theme and an 80-minute time limit for which songs they're going to pick for their Mix CD. This week, we are talking about 80s movie soundtracks. And it's nice because when it comes to soundtracks, there's so many good ones from the 80s, and there's a lot of hidden gems out there that don't really get a chance to be talked about or brought to the light of day. So I am joined by George Sirois. Hello, how's it going?
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm great. Great. Thanks. Appreciate it. So I put out a beacon to see if anybody would be interested in any of the podcasts that we have on the SPDM crew. And I got a lot of responses, and George was thankfully one of the people who responded. So, George, tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me a little bit about the content that you're working on.
Oh, first of all, thanks so much for having me. My name is George Sirois. I am an author of young adult science fiction. I am working on part 3 of my trilogy for a character that I created about over 30 years ago named Excelsior. He is not only the main character in this trilogy, but he was also adapted into part 1 was adapted into an audio drama that you can actually hear on my podcast, Excelsior Journeys. The 300th episode, which went up last month, features the complete audio drama, and I had a blast putting that together. That is with a full cast. It's with sound effects. It's with a musical score. It's a great production, and I am just so grateful to everyone for taking part in it. I'm also an audiobook narrator. Hopefully, by the time this airs, I will have basically finally released the news about the latest one that I've done. I am very, very excited about it. It's my first movie tie-in novelization that I got to record. I've also narrated about 20 different titles of various genres. And I'm also a podcaster, as I said. I have my weekly interview show, Excelsior Journeys. I've been doing that since 2018 and been having a blast doing it. And I'm also a screenwriter that with my short film script that's actually was nominated for an award over at the Austin Revolution Film Festival, which by the time this airs, I'll have known whether I won or lost. And I was also there, so I would be at this time very happy or a little bit disappointed, but overall very happy to have been nominated. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very busy, and how I've been able to harness all of this and keep it all going while being a husband and father and having a full-time job. I'm still trying to figure that out, but somehow it's all falling into place.
Lots of sleepless nights, lots of late nights, lots
Oh,
of
yes.
in between, in between doing stuff with kids and family. I totally get that. I am in a very similar boat because I have kids, I have a full-time job as well. It's hard. It's hard, but
Yeah.
it's it's a lot of fun, having something that you're passionate about. And good luck to you with all of the, with the screenplay, and hopefully we'll have some good news coming up when you come back on for another one. So,
Yes. Yes. That's what I hope so.
all right, awesome. So, you picked 80s movie soundtracks as your
Hmm.
theme. So,
Oh, yeah.
first question right off the bat,
Hmm.
what is it about 80s movie soundtracks besides the fact that they're awesome and we're never going to have movie soundtracks like that ever again, which is very sad.
Yeah.
But what is it about 80s movie soundtrack that attracted you to that theme?
I just love I love the energy that all of the songs bring. The ones that really grabbed my attention are the ones that funny enough were not the ones that ever really made it to the radio. I just found myself, I would obviously listen to the hits, but then at the same time, I would start listening to some of the other ones. I was like, "Ooh, that sounds good." that one sounds good too. That one sounds really cool. And they have like this great energy to them um, that works so well with the movies that they're in. There are certain movies that really highlight that kind of music. A big example is Iron Eagle, because that not only it starts you off with some really good music and everything, because it works so well with the footage of the characters flying in the planes and everything, and you have this one character, the main one, the kid who has to save his father when he gets shot down overseas, but he literally has his cassette player attached to his leg, and so he's always like playing that while he's flying. And so you get some great moments. You get some great shots of him in the air with Adrenaline's Road to the Gypsy playing, and then a couple other songs that are going. And then right at the end, during like the last big battle, that's when they hit you with One Vision by Queen. And then you're blown away by it. It's like, and then it just goes even higher, because then during the closing credits, what do they hit? King Cobra's Never Say Die. It was just like, boom. It just gets you with that great adrenaline fueling feeling. And so many different soundtracks have done that. And those are the kinds of ones that I really look for. I love that sort of vibe that they give.
And I love the fact that you're looking for things that don't have a lot of radio play as well, because
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the beauty of the old school movie soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays it's a song that has been repurposed for something in the movie,
Yep.
or just scores. And not to
Mm-hmm.
say that there's anything wrong with that, because
Of course not. Yeah.
that's just how the movie soundtrack is of today, and that's
Yeah.
fine. But the 80s and 90s in particular, and even the 70s, there were movie soundtracks where you just compiled a lot of different songs written specifically for that movie, or
Mm-hmm.
just could be utilized in a lot of different ways. So I'm
Yep.
excited to just learn a little bit more about what movies kind of stuck out to you and which songs from those particular soundtracks. Now, you said that you had a playlist
Yes.
of songs that you've created. So tell me a little bit about the playlist. How many songs are on the playlist? What are you looking for? Do you have them in a particular order? Just let's talk about the list.
I don't have them in a particular order, because one of the things that I did back when I was living in New York is I put together about, I want to say like four or five different CDs worth of those tracks. I would just grab all of them from the internet and just download them, get them all set and everything, burn them on to discs, and I would give them out as gifts to different friends who had the same sort of feeling and the same sort of love for these soundtracks as I did. And it just became something like, oh, what if I grab this one? Oh, what if I grab this one? And just became something even more fun, because then it became something like, what else can I surprise them with?
Hmm.
And that to me was just like was a blast, because to mention the aforementioned Iron Eagle, getting to include a few tracks from that was a lot of fun. And then getting to add things like Never Surrender and Streets of Siam from Kickboxer.
Hmm.
And because like I got one of my good friends who lives in Florida now, but he and I lived together for a few years. He was a big fan of these kinds of movies too.
Hmm.
So getting to put together a soundtrack that's got things like Fight to Survive from Bloodsport, and um, Winner Takes It All by Sammy Hagar from Over the Top, and um, all this great stuff. And that's what just kind of like inspired me to make this version of it
Hmm.
on Amazon. I just went ahead and looked around, and it was like, what do they have that's available? And there
Yeah.
are some things that they don't have. Unfortunately, they do not have the Teen Wolf soundtrack, and I think that
What?
is a travesty. That is
You
an
th
absolute travesty. You
you would
cannot have a good 80s, a great 80s movie soundtrack playlist without Win in the End. But you can't have it without things like without Flesh on Fire or Big Bad Wolf. Like, I mean, this it's full of great stuff that you can only hear in the movie,
Hmm.
but now you would be able to have them on this playlist.
Right. And that's again the beauty of just putting together as many of these songs as possible, because it's nice because when it was just like a mix CD, you had
Mhm.
that like 80-minute time limit, and it just trying to scrunch everything in together.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's hard. And I remember when I that used to be like a Christmas present that I gave
Hmm.
to all my friends. And that was always the hardest thing, is that how am I going to convey what I want with the playlist that I have in the time frame that I have,
Hmm.
and also how am I going to burn all of these? It takes about 20 minutes to burn all of these and distribute them like a couple days before Christmas. It
Yeah.
was crazy to do that, but it was always a lot of fun, and it was
Hmm.
something that I always look forward to doing. So I am very excited to learn a little bit more about some of the songs on your list. So let's dive right in. So give
Sure.
me so give me first couple that you want to talk about, and how many songs are on this playlist?
Right now, as of right now, I have 71 songs, and it
Awesome.
comes out to 4 hours and 55 minutes.
Oh,
And so yeah, obviously we're not going to go into all of them, but
oh no, no.
and the great thing is, like, there's always thoughts about adding this song and then this song and then this song, because
Mhm,
you always wind up missing them. And every now and then Amazon will just sneak in a few albums every now
mhm,
and then into their Amazon Music playlist. So
mhm.
that would allow me to go ahead and add them on to this one. So um the first one that I felt was an ideal starter for it is I'm Gonna Be Somebody by Jack Mack and the Heart Attack. And this was played as the end credits music to the first Police Academy. And Police Academy to me,
Now I know exactly where that
yep,
comes from. Awesome.
it was, yeah, this I chose that one because Police Academy is the ultimate, I would say, 80s series. Even though they had one more that was in the 90s, Mission to Moscow. Um, that one just kind of came and went, and nobody thought of that one at all. But the but the feeling of that first one, it was like a perfect kind of setting, perfect kind of exclamation point to that movie, because that's one of the best examples of the misfits that decide they don't want to get kicked out, that they want to stand up to not quite their oppressors or anything, but they want to they want to belong, they want to be
Mhm,
better, they want to make their mark in what it is that they were doing. And what better song to use than I'm Gonna Be Somebody. Like
mhm,
that just gets you off, like gets you going on a great high, once those end credits start playing. And it's just like you're just kind of bopping your head and everything. You're just enjoying the fact that these guys, they all graduated, so they're going to be police officers, and they made it through and wound up being heroes
mhm.
at the end of it all. So what a perfect way to start off the whole list.
You would think that they would continue to make these movies, because it feels like you can literally make a Police Academy movie at any time with
Yeah.
all the different things that are going on. And
Hmm.
maybe given the current climate around the country in terms of the role of cops in society right now, that's
Yeah.
probably a big reason why, unfortunately. But maybe counterpoint, maybe that's why we need a movie like this to begin with.
Well, they try. They. It's not for lack of trying,
Mhm,
because they kept the franchise going after part six. They had the cartoon series for a couple of seasons. They had a live action series not long after they did Mission to Moscow. And so there have been it's been just trying to, like, kind of keep it going. But
mhm,
unfortunately, back in, I want to say, either the beginning of December or the end of November, we lost the real torch carrier for that franchise. We lost producer Paul Maslansky,
mm,
and he was the one who came up with the idea for the series in the first place. He was the one that happened to have seen a bunch of cops that were patrolling the streets during the time that they were they were filming The Right Stuff over in Canada,
Mhm.
and he just happened to have spoken with a commanding officer who basically said that, you know, these guys are all rookies from the police academy, but we don't have to keep them all. We can just go, you know, the laws have changed so that way we have to accept them, but we don't have to keep them.
Mm.
And so that's what gave him the idea of saying, like, well, what if the laws change and they have to come in, but the ones that they want to wash out don't want to leave. They
Yeah.
actually want to get better. They want to improve, and they want to do what they're there to do. So I'm raising a glass, you know, to Paul Mislansky for everything that he did. So again, perfect way to start off that playlist.
Good call
Yep.
with that. And now I just have that song stuck in my head right
Yeah.
now because I remember that the first time I saw Police Academy. And you're
Hmm.
right, that's just great way to end the movie. Great representation of what that was, what that movie was about. And more importantly, it's a bop.
Yeah.
It's still a great song to this day. So give me another song on your playlist, either early
Sure.
on or just one that you're just interested in talking about and catches your attention.
Oh, absolutely. So a couple of big ones that are definitely favorites of this genre were featured in the soundtrack to the first Karate Kid, and I'm talking about the 1-2 punch that is "You're the Best" by Joe Esposito
Hmm.
and "The Moment of Truth" by Survivor. Talk about like the best two songs to bookend that whole sequence over at the All Valley tournament, and then right in the middle is some of the best music that Bill Conti has composed
Hmm.
for the final moment. And I remember seeing that movie in the theater and just getting so pumped up. I'm 8 years old at this point. I was fired up, and when Daniel hits the crane kick on Johnny, man, that theater exploded.
I'm
Like
sure it did.
everyone
Yeah.
was so dialed in. Like it was like watching like an actual game where someone, where the Giants scored the winning touchdown against New England. Like that was, what, just this wonderful like elation,
Hmm.
from that moment. And then more applause like right at the very end when the end credits hit. So
Right.
those two those two I knew had to be in here. And also growing up as an 80s kid, like my franchise of choice was Transformers.
Hmm.
And that was something that I grew up what like really getting into and loving and being there on the ground floor. I think that was a big reason why I gravitated toward it as much as I did. So um that led obviously to the 1986 Transformers the movie. And that was, and I'm so glad that when I had Vince DiCola, the composer for that, and also the composer for Rocky Four, on my show a few years ago, I was able to tell him that Rocky Four and Transformers the movie were the two most replayed cassettes that I had in my soundtrack collection, and he was
Hmm.
really happy to hear that. So those two soundtracks are very heavily represented in the playlist. For Rocky Four, I got Burning Heart by Survivor, definitely got Hearts on Fire by John Cafferty, and I got No Easy Way Out by Robert Tepper.
Hmm.
I decided not to include Eye of the Tiger because it's a regular play on the radio. So
Hmm.
like anything that's like that you can regularly hear on the radio, those are the ones that I decided to not include in this list. But with Transformers the movie, I got The Touch by Stan Bush and Dare by Stan Bush.
Hmm.
I got Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way and Hunger by Spectre General. I got Instruments of Destruction by NRG. And of course, I have Transformers by Lion, the theme song. So
Hmm.
they're both very heavily represented here.
So to touch point on Eye of the Tiger. Yeah,
Yeah.
Eye of the Tiger is an iconic song, but I think what kind of gets misconstrued nowadays, particularly with people who are not really well versed with 80s songs, is that
Hmm.
the assumption is that Survivor was potentially a one-hit wonder with Eye of the Tiger, and that
Yeah.
cannot be further from the truth because
Absolutely not. Yeah.
they had hit after hit
Hmm.
of so many different songs, And just because Eye of the Tiger was the most popular does not necessarily necessitate that that's the only thing that they had that was quote unquote good.
Yeah.
So any love to give for Survivor, I'm all here for it. And with the Karate Kid soundtrack, the Karate Kid soundtracks, they usually had like one or two like ballad songs that they
Yeah.
put on their soundtrack that they're fine. And
Hmm.
ballads at this time, 80s and 90s, they didn't really sometimes fit into the movie that
Hmm.
much, and
Yeah.
that's fine. It is what it is. But I'm glad that there's representation from the Karate Kid and
Oh yeah.
also representation from Transformers because I grew up on Transformers. I
Hmm.
grew up on the toys. I grew up on the cartoon. I even grew up on some comics from
Yep.
Transformers as well.
That
So
comic was great. That
that
comic was great. All credit to Bob Budiansky for keeping that going. And like
mhm.
he put so much of that together.
And just another series that has kept going, and although the direction of it is kind of hit or miss at
Hmm.
times, depending on your opinion of the Transformers movies, because they're spectacles to behold, but
Oh
I
yeah.
understand full well that they're not for everybody. But
Hmm.
those old school movies, they were great, and they were ones that I wore out those VHS tapes pretty
Absolutely.
much until we couldn't watch them anymore. We had to get them replaced.
Yep.
So more power to you for that one. So
Hmm.
um so how do you want to do this? Would you rather maybe pick a movie and see if there's like a couple from that particular movie, or would you rather go, just a couple more tracks?
We can go with tracks.
All right,
Like
cool.
yeah, the ones, some of the ones that I saw on here, that I really wanted to I really wanted to, give a shout out to are the soundtracks that feature elements about the movie.
Hmm.
That's something that was really prevalent in the 80s movie soundtracks.
Yes, it was.
We had like three. There were three great tracks that I made sure to put on here from Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon,
Mm,
and so I made sure to have The Last Dragon, The Glow, and Inside You.
mm.
Um, all three of them are great, and all three of them are basically talking about what's happening on the screen. And so,
It's
and it's like that's what makes them great. That's
mhm.
the and so I made a point to put those in. Um but one soundtrack album that I give so much love to is Ghostbusters 2. Love Ghostbusters, love the original one and everything, but that one's got like a handful of really good songs that I am into. And I would, just thinking about it, I actually kind of need to put on ones like Cleaning Up the Town by the Bus Boys, got to put on Saving the Day, Magic. That's good stuff.
Those are good
but
ones. Yeah.
um but when it comes to like the replay value, the fact that there are not one, not two, but four different tracks on the Ghostbusters 2 album that talk about the movie. Like that to me is a
That's
blast. You have
that's so true. That's a good. That's a good point. Yeah.
you obviously have On Our Own by Bobby Brown.
Mhm.
And even though that got, some airplay, that's not given as much notice these days. So that one went on the album. Um there's also We're Back by Bobby Brown. It's a fun one. I chose not to put that one on there because I was never like a big, that one I never really replayed all that much.
Mhm.
The Ghostbusters theme that was done by Run DMC was a lot of fun, which also gave little nods to what was going on with the story. Um, but then there was also Spirit by Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew, which I love. That's like the epitome of 80s rap.
Mhm.
And just so much fun to listen to. And so I made sure that one was on there. And I also made sure that Flip City by Glenn Fry was in there as well. Because that's one that I listen to quite a bit. I love the feel of that one because I love Glenn Fry stuff. Like I
Mhm.
love the Miami Vice stuff that he did, especially You Belong to the City. I think that's a fantastic song. And of course, The Heat Is On from Beverly Hills Cop. So like,
Hmm.
he got his fingers in a lot of different 80s movie soundtrack pies.
Hmm.
And so he's definitely one to celebrate.
And that's something that you don't get
Yeah.
nowadays, is that you have certain artists in the 80s that just made their careers off of doing things in movie soundtracks, or at
John
least they
John
large.
Parr.
Yeah.
John Parr right there. Like the man who gave us Man in Motion
Hmm.
with St. Elmo's
Set Elmo's
Fire.
Fire,
Yep.
exactly. And there is there's nothing wrong with that if it's a part of their career, or if
Hmm.
it is their entire career. That just doesn't happen now,
Yeah.
and it sucks. And I'm so glad that you brought up Ghostbusters 2, because I'm one of those people who I love Ghostbusters 2.
Me too.
Is it
Me
is
too.
it as good as the first one?
No.
Probably not,
Yeah.
but it's still enjoyable nonetheless. I still enjoy the dynamic between all of these characters. I thought the
Hmm.
villain was pretty interesting, and
Hmm.
just Peter Nicholson, or McNichols,
Oh,
or
Peter McNichol. Yeah.
he
Oh,
he
he
just
he runs away with this movie.
he goes for it, and I am all here for it. So
Yeah.
any love to give Ghostbusters 2, I'm all here for it. So good call out for that.
Yeah.
And that soundtrack was pretty stacked.
Hmm.
And this isn't to say that, like, are any of these songs going to replace the original Ghostbusters song? No,
No.
but
No.
there are still a lot of fun ones on there, and a lot of great additions that are like, oh yeah, I remember that one.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
good call out with those. Give me a couple more that
Oh,
you have
sure.
on your list.
Absolutely. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So one that I had known about for a lot of years, but I never actually sat down to watch the movie itself, is the 1984 film Streets of Fire.
Mm,
And I mainly knew it from Dan Hartman's I Can Dream About You, which is a fantastic song, and one that I feel like does not get enough credit. It got a good amount of airtime. That it seemed like that one was kind of the breakout song from that soundtrack. Um, but I haven't heard it in a while. So when I saw that the soundtrack was available on Amazon Music, I grabbed that one, and then I sat down and I listened to two songs by a group called Fire Inc. And I didn't know that this was a fictitious group that Jim Steinman put together. And for those music fans who know the name of Jim Steinman, he was the man who gave us Meatloaf. He wrote all of the songs for Meatloaf, and he also wrote a lot of other songs by for Bonnie Tyler. He did for those of you, like obviously Holding Out for a Hero and Total Eclipse of the Heart. Those are him. And he also gave us a great tune called Ravishing, where he actually took the theme song from Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling and made that into a Bonnie Tyler song. And I don't know which one came first, but when I actually one of my friends played the theme to Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling, I was like, okay, you need to hear this. And I started playing Ravishing, and he just started laughing so hard because it's completely the same. It,
mhm.
it was it was the exact same music, and it just got added like a little extra oomph to it for Bonnie. And he also did Celine Dion's "It's All Coming Back to Me Now." So, great stuff. And
Diverse
oh yeah,
set of music. Yeah,
oh yeah,
awesome.
and he also gave us the theme, gave us the song "Original Sin" that Taylor Dane did for The Shadow from 1994. So that's all these songs. Like I'm a big Jim Steinman fan. Like I love that kind of music that just goes to the balcony and
Mhm,
beyond. It goes to the theater across the street. Like that's the sort of like power that I love hearing in these kinds of songs.
mhm.
So he was commissioned to do a couple of songs for Streets of Fire, and he does two of them. He bookends the movie because he does one for the very beginning, one for the very end. And the song for the very beginning is a song called Nowhere Fast. And I fell in love with this song when I started hearing, like, as it's playing. And maybe it has something to do with the way that Walter Hill did the editing of that opening, because if you want to see like a masterclass in editing, you watch the first 10 minutes of Streets of Fire.
Hmm.
It is so good, and it gets you so fired up, and you're just like, please let the movie, like, be as good as this. And unfortunately, it has moments where it jumps up and it's just like, okay, that's great, okay, that's good, but at the same time, it's one of those where if I were to show them to my family, I would say, like, you can have your phone on.
Mhm.
It's okay. I'll let you know when to pay attention again, because like the first 10 minutes are stellar, the last 20 minutes are stellar, and everything in between, it's got flashes of
Mhm.
great stuff. So it's definitely worth watching. But this opening is just absolutely stellar, and I love it. I love introducing it to other people. Um, and especially when, when a little bit of light casts on the main antagonist's face and you see that it's Willem Dafoe circa 1984, and you got Diane Lane circa 1984 on the stage. Um, Even though she wasn't really singing it, but lip syncing it and
Mhm.
doing a very good job. But it's still Diane Lane from circa 1984, and that in itself is amazing. So the whole opening is wonderful. So, and that song is just a great adrenaline kick in the nuts that just just keeps you like, that just wants you to 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 be dialed in and watch the rest of the film. And it ends with a really good supercharged, um, I would say, finale
Mhm.
called "Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young." Like, another reason to love Jim is like his song titles are so out there.
Mhm.
And but this was really good because it not only has Diane Lane's band on there, but it also has the band that did "I Can Dream About You" singing in the background. It's a great finale for the whole thing. But those those three songs, "Nowhere Fast," "I Can Dream About You," "Tonight Is What It Means to Be Young," all three of those are on this soundtrack here.
I empathize so much with you when it comes to kids and family that you introduce something to, and you're like, I'm going to enjoy this. You may not. There are certain parts of this that there's pure gold in here, and then there's a lot of parts that there's potentially a little bit of a lull. But
Mm-hmm.
that comes with the territory when you're introducing, friends, family to certain things that you really like, and you know that they're not going to hit the same way
Mm-hmm.
for you that they hit for them. And as sad
Yeah.
as that is, it's always still fun just to get reactions and to share that as a part of your journey. So I empathize with you completely with that when it comes to families watching movies or friends, and maybe some of the movies don't hold up the way that you hope, but it still doesn't change the fact that you really enjoy them and you really like them. So good call outs for that. Um, Let me ask you a question. So
Sure.
the there are a lot of classic horror movies of
Yes.
in the 80s. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have anything from horror movie soundtracks on
Sure
here?
do. Sure
Okay.
do. I made damn sure that Dawkins Dream Warriors was going in there.
Hmm.
That was absolutely going in there. I got Alice Cooper. He's back, the man behind the mask from Friday the 13th Part 6. I was thinking actually, like, it would be fun to track down to see if I can find Love Is a Lie by Lion. That's a
Mm,
song that Crispin Glover played. Well, that he actually played on the set of Friday the 13th, the final chapter. He actually played on the set AC/DC's Back in Black. And
mm,
so, like, so what I'd like to do sometimes, I'd like to queue up my song of my album of Back in Black and play that and see how the dancing syncs up to that, because they switched it out for the song that Lion did called Love Is a Lie.
got it.
And so um that was their first song, that I would wind up hearing from them. And obviously 86 would be the theme of the Transformers. So
Mhm.
but I definitely made sure to put that in. Both Alice Cooper and Dokken, and a few from Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Mm,
That was very music heavy. And two big ones. that were not on the original soundtrack, but thankfully they were released on their own.
Oh, nice.
Were Nightmare by Tuesday Night. It was the song that the Lita Ford type of song that opens up the movie. Um,
Oh.
and also had to put in the Fat Boys. Are you ready for Freddy? that was that was a guarantee that was going in there. And it turns out I didn't even know this, but they did like a few different versions of that song because the very end of the version that I have actually like it added an extra verse and it also has a different rap from Freddie at the very end. So it was really interesting for that, to
Mhm.
hear that. And one song that was on the soundtrack that was kind of buried in like, I think it was like one of the moments over at the Crave Inn, where that, one of the various songs that were playing in the background. But it was a song by Vinnie Vincent Invasion called Love Kills. And that is a great 80s song. And that's one that I made a point to put on there.
Mhm.
And I absolutely had to have songs from the Lost Boys
The
on
Lost
there.
Boys has a fantastic soundtrack. I
Oh yeah.
remember I remember listening to that soundtrack with my dad and just
Yeah.
not really understanding like the context behind some of the songs in
Mm-hmm.
here and not realizing that it's a movie soundtrack. I thought that because when I picked up the album cover, I was like, that's a really big band. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why are all these people in the band like this? My dad was like, you don't get it, but one day you will.
Yeah.
It's all good. And then
Yeah.
it wasn't until later where I saw the movie and then it's like this soundtrack still slaps to this
It
day.
does. It really does. And getting um getting to hear um getting to hear things like Lou Graham's Lost in the Shadows, and Good Times on there, and the Echo and the Bunnymen cover of People Are Strange. Good stuff. Really, really good stuff that's there.
Mhm.
And um, so yeah, I made a point that for those to be there. And other horror ones. Let me actually just take a quick peek here.
Mhm.
But let's see here. Let's see. I made a point. I'm sure there are a couple. I
Mhm.
had on here the um a version of Party Time that I thought was the version that was in Return of the Living Dead.
Mm.
But it turns out it's not. And it's actually, like that version that was in there um on that it's a little harder edge, than a little more edgy and definitely more not quite, like not one that you would want to like kind of associate with a movie that's as fun as Return of the Living Dead, because they definitely re-recorded that one and
Mhm.
added, took out the more incendiary lyrics
Mhm.
and made it a little bit more palatable to the masses, you can say.
Mhm.
So that definitely helped. But let's see, for the other horror ones, I'm not sure if you would count Grease 2 as, in horror.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That counts as a horror
Yeah.
movie. So good.
But I am a sucker for the Four Tops Back to School Again.
Mhm.
So I made sure that was on there. And let's see here. And other ones that, not so much of other ones in the horror one,
Mhm.
but some other, action, some comedies. Definitely made sure Night Ranger Secret of My Success was on there,
Mhm.
because I think that's a song that I just really get a kick out of. um Oingo Boingo's Dead Man's Party, since that was used in Back to School, that gets an automatic yes
Mhm.
to go in there. And a couple of Billy Joel tracks too that I wanted to put on there. Easy Money, which is the title song of the movie Easy Money,
Okay.
with Rodney Dangerfield, and also a great song that's from one of his albums that not too many people talk about, called The Bridge. And it's a song called Modern Woman. And
Mm.
he used that was used in the movie Ruthless People. And that was, which in itself, like, great movie anyway, but like
Hmm.
the soundtrack itself was really good too, because you got that, and then you have Mick Jagger's main theme to Ruthless People. Both of them are just, terrific songs.
Very
Um,
nice.
yeah, and made sure to put like a couple other ones. Definitely made sure Highlander was represented with some Princess of the Universe, and I think I put "Give Me the Prize" on here as well.
Mm.
And of course, being a Queen fan, I had no problem putting Flash on there as well.
It
'Cause,
feels like it's required
yeah,
to put that on. And although probably not like a very radio heavy song, which it could be. I don't
yeah,
know, but that still doesn't change the fact that it's a well-known song from a fun and great movie, and they did the entire soundtrack for it,
yeah,
right? Or so, yeah,
yeah.
good call out with that.
Really,
So
really good stuff. Yeah,
here's one last question I have for you before we move on to the final question, is
yeah.
that if you could pick either favorite movie that's on this list or
Mhm.
favorite song that's on this list, what would it be?
Let's see. Let's. Ooh, that is a very good one. I revisit so many of these songs over and
Hmm.
over again. Um, and there are some that, that I just really, really get a kick out of hearing. And um, I would say, being the Kenny Loggins fan that I am, I not I have a couple tracks of his. Um, I have a couple tracks of his on here. Obviously, I definitely have "I'm Free" from Footloose.
Hmm.
Did not include the title song, um, but I definitely made sure that one that I put on, that I really loved, love going back to, because I consider that nowhere near, favorite 80s movie to represent, because I think the movie itself is horrible, but the song itself was a bright spot, and that was "Nobody's Fool" by Kenny Loggins, which was the theme to Caddyshack 2. um the song itself was the lone bright spot of that whole movie. The rest of the movie is a chore to get through, but once you get through like once Kenny is well represented, which he is during the opening credits, you can just kind of like, you can move on
Hmm.
from that.
Just listen to the song and just kind of go from there.
You're good. Yeah.
Kenny Loggins is just like a legend of like
Yeah.
80s theme songs. And I would assume that there's probably good representation there. There's probably ones that you probably had to leave off because they're
Hmm.
ones that were very popular or radio heavy ones.
Yep.
Like I correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming that you already mentioned Footloose.
Hmm.
Probably not going to have Danger Zone on
Didn't
there.
have Danger Zone, but I was flirting with the idea of putting "Playing with the Boys" on there, but I never really went back to that song very much.
Hmm.
The one that I did make sure to include from Top Gun was "Mighty Wings"
Mm,
by Cheap Trick.
Cheap
That's a
Trick. Yep,
great
that's
song. Great song to wrap up that whole movie. And God, there's quite a few other ones as well that I really gravitated to.
mhm,
Um, and since one of the ultimate movies of the '80s was The Breakfast Club,
mhm.
so I'm obviously not gonna play "Don't You Forget About Me," because that you can just go to any radio station and hear that whenever.
Yep.
But you're not going to hear Carla DeVito's "We Are Not Alone,"
Nope.
and
And
that like I made sure to put on there, because that's a great song to really get things going. Um but there are a couple songs that I would love to put on that I'm not able to put on yet,
because
because
they're not on
again,
Amazon. Yeah.
yeah, well, one of the other ones I mentioned, Teen Wolf, but that was, that's a gimme there. But one that I picked up on a whim when I had it on cassette, um, just for the sake of it, and it had some great songs on there, was "Black Rain."
Mm.
That is a really cool song by Iggy Pop called "Living on the Edge of the Night." But on the other side, that starts side two, was a song called "I'll Be Holding On" by Greg Allman,
Mm.
and that is an awesome song. Like that is a really really good song. You can find it on YouTube, but you're not going to find it on Amazon. I don't, like they don't even have it under his name or anything. Like
Huh.
and it sucks because like that's a great song to really kind of, you know, to really get you fired up. So there are a lot of great ones. It's hard for me to really say, this one is like the best. In terms of the albums that really stuck with me, I would have to have Rocky 4 in one hand and Transformers the movie on the other hand.
Good.
So
Those
yeah,
great picks. Good
yeah,
call out
hmm,
with that. Okay, last question I have for you before
yes,
I let you off the hook.
yeah.
If this album or if this playlist was an actual CD,
Ooh,
what would be the album cover?
oh man, it would look like something that is akin to the uh the the box cover art for Electric Boogaloo, which was the the amazing documentary about the rise and fall of Canon Films. Because Canon Films that's as 80s as it gets. And even though there were very few Canon songs that are represented in the soundtrack, as of now,
Mhm.
I may wind up changing my mind on that. But there are certain ones that, just the feel of it, the feel of it would be something that would be made by a Canon movie, by Canon Films poster artist, I would say.
Got it.
And it would definitely have to be something designed by Matthew Peak, because his
Mm.
stuff is awesome. So it's that definitely kind of fits the bill for the 80s.
Very nice. Any aspirations to do this for any other time frame, or is just 80s? 80s is it?
Maybe some for the 90s, maybe early 90s, I would say. Like if I can give myself like a grace period, I would say like 75 to 85, or
Mm,
to 95, I would say. Or at least 1980 to 1995.
got it.
Because there was some really good stuff that found its way onto different soundtracks. I'd mentioned Original Sin by Taylor Dane for The Shadow. That's a great song that I have gone back to many times, and I have no problem putting that one on there because it has the same sort of vibe of
Mhm.
what I'm looking for. So
Very nice.
yeah,
So good call out with that. If we'll put the link to the playlist on the episode notes so that anybody can take a look and listen and see what else is there because there's a lot of great songs on here. So George, thank you very much for your time. Greatly appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting with you more. Where can the people find you? And do you have anything else that you'd like to plug?
yeah, you can go to www.he'sgotit.com, as in by George He's Got It. That is my website, and I still can't believe that I was able to grab he'sgotit.com before someone else took it. But hey, I got it,
You
and
take it. Yeah,
yeah, I got it
absolutely.
literally. So, but you can go there. You can find out about all the different stuff that I do: the books, the audiobooks, the voice acting, the podcasts. You can even listen to the podcasts themselves on the webpage itself. Just go to he'sgotit.com/podcasts, and there's plenty there that is available for your listening and viewing and reading pleasure. So, and also the more people that go there, the more motivated I feel I will be to get my newsletter up and running, to get my Substack up and running, all those fun things. So definitely the Substack. That's something I really want to really get going. So hopefully by the time you read this, hopefully by the time this airs, I will have some entries on my Substack page, especially about the upcoming film festival that I'm going to later this month. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Got it. Well, good luck to you on that. I'll be sure to put the website address and then just highlight a couple things on here for sure to take a look at and get people to check you out. But again, thank you very much for your time. Greatly appreciate it. And good luck to you and looking forward to chatting with you again more soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, my friends, the time has come to end this episode of Mix CD. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to anything and everything SPDM Crew wherever you get your podcast. Join us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, YouTube, and Blue Sky at SPDM Crew. Check out our website soon to be out at spdmcrew.com. You can follow our playlist on Spotify and Apple Music at Mike Hilty. Shout out to HiFlyer Creative Studios for making our awesome logo. Greatly appreciate their support. And if you have any marketing, logo, or brand standard needs, contact them at HiFlyerCreative.com. If you've got a podcast idea or you're interested in being part of the SPDM crew as a guest or collaborating, email us at spdmcrew@gmail.com. Until next time, no matter what happens now, you shouldn't be afraid because I know today has been the most perfect day I've ever seen.